Any guesses as to why we don't know the name of the officer that shot and killed Ashli Babbitt on January 6th? Just wondering, there's a few things that are going through my head, at least. Not a bullet, thankfully, and then I wouldn't be able to sue, and at least her family might get some recompense for that trigger-happy asshole who will never be held accountable because the DOJ figured, she's fine. She's fine. She was trying to climb through a window or something, and they may or may not have been yelling at her to stop and do that. And why didn't they just shoot her in the leg? Why didn't they just use the taser? Couldn't they fire a warning shot? Ashli Babbitt's family ready to file $10 million lawsuit against Capitol Police for shooting her dead during Capitol riot. Why not? There's a lower standard in order to get a payout in a fucking civil court, so fucking do it. I don't see anything wrong with this. Ashli Babbitt, a 35-year-old Air Force veteran, was shot and killed while trying to storm the Speaker's lobby. Really? Is that what she was trying to do? Trying to storm in there? Whatever. During the January 6th Capitol Daily Mail. Come on. Insurrection? Really? Are we still fucking trying to run with that? When she was the only person who fucking died of anything regarding what happened that day. Everybody else, the stroke, the heart attack, a couple of strokes much later, a fucking overdose. There, everybody's been accounted for. So what the fuck are we still trying to play this out as being the most egregious attack on our democracy since the Civil War? Oh, fuck your mothers. So yeah, they're going to seek $10 million and will serve the Capitol Police within 10 days. The family lawyer, Terry Roberts. Oh, I should have got Ben Crump, but I think we know why he's not going to be taking this fucking hustle up. Babbitt, a 35-year-old Air Force veteran, was shot through a window by an unidentified officer as she and other Trump supporters, sprinkle in a few Antifa members there, the ones who had cameras rolling for CNN. Roberts said the suit would cover economic losses from Babbitt's death, as well as other claims, including punitive damages. My feelings were hurt, estimating that $10 million would be a good estimate of the total amount sought. Yeah, I don't see why not. Hell, if she was a couple shades darker and she took a few more fucking amphetamine pills and she would have got that Capitol Police officer to just kneel on her for a little while, she would have got an extra $17 million. So, God bless. When this one actually gets filed, maybe we'll figure out who the fuck actually shot her. Because we know everybody who ever discharged a fucking firearm in the past year. We know every name of every officer there, except for this one. And it's no fucking surprise why. But let's get on to the Derek Chauvin stuff, because this is a little bit more of a downer. And it gets you a little bit more conspiratorial, I suppose, because the first story, the Ashli Babbitt stuff, that was fairly cut and dry. But this whole Derek Chauvin stuff is a little bit fucking weird, and we're not going to go back and talk about the fucking trial because it's all done and dusted. Dude's going to get time. He's going to end up going away probably for 10, 15 years, something like that, because more than likely those three charges, man 2, murder 2, and murder 3, he's probably going to end up serving them all concurrently. Sorry, 70 years would be what would happen if he ended up serving them end over end, but more than likely he's just going to end up serving whatever is levied for the murder 2 charge and just serve the other 2 concurrently, unless of course he has this well-hidden criminal record that's never come up before. He's just a piece of shit, but as far as everybody knows, he doesn't really have a criminal record. But the DOJ reportedly had a secret plan to arrest ex-cop if acquitted. It sounds a little bit more fantastical than it would be let on. What they want to rally you up to think is, the media this is, if Chauvin somehow got acquitted that day, which now that we're getting testimony from jurors in the court that in the box said that was never, ever, ever going to happen. If he was going to be acquitted, he was going to get slapped with tax charges, which he was being investigated for prior to this anyways, and then they were just going to keep him around and slap on some kind of a fucking civil lawsuit as well. And that's what this details, and it's weird. It's very weird, and it makes for a very fantastical situation. The U.S. government is planning to bring federal charges against former Minneapolis police officers Chauvin, Lane, and Tao. According to the Star Tribune, a week after Chauvin was found guilty, this is from a couple days ago, of murder and manslaughter of George Floyd, St. Floyd to you. The Star Tribune reported that the Justice Department had been gathering evidence for months and had developed a contingency plan to arrest Chauvin at the Hennepin County Courthouse in Minneapolis if there was a mistrial or a jury failed to convict him on all 3 counts. I'm sure that was exactly what was going to happen. Those courtroom doors were just going to swing open. There'd be a bunch of guys in blue blazers with yellow FBI letters on the back and they just slap him back in cuffs and it's, you're under arrest. It's never that fucking fantastical. He would have got a call a couple of weeks later and it would have been, hey, can you come in? You're going to be charged. The backup plan was not needed since Chauvin was handcuffed and walked out of the courtroom. So, okay, if you had this plan figured out and everything and you wanted to bring these federal charges, why didn't you just do it then? I don't know. It almost seems like this is just a fucking another media hype machine tactic. I just picked the Fox News because we haven't used them as a source lately, but yeah, pretty much everybody's reporting on it, and it just seems way too fantastical to be true. Like it says here, the plan involved having Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office bring federal charges against Chauvin via criminal complaint in order to have him arrested immediately. You can already see where this would start falling apart. If this was so airtight, why wouldn't you just get the DOJ to file the federal charges? How about that? How about that? Instead of moving through with a grand jury for indictment, which would have been a slower process, the newspaper reported, citing unnamed sources who were not authorized to speak publicly. Yes, unnamed sources can't speak publicly. No way to verify this shit. It's fucking stupid. But what we do have is more actual testimony that can be verified from people who were there. Prosecutors. Derek Chauvin deserves aggravated sentence in George Floyd killing. Why? You already got what you wanted. You already got your 3 charges. He's going to be going away. But no, it was never enough. They said it the day of. They've said it in the days since. And it's just going to be a continuing narrative until every one of their political opponents are just thrown away into gulags. We'll get there. We'll get there. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin should receive an aggravated sentence for his actions leading to the death of George Floyd, prosecutors argued in a legal brief filed on Friday. The facts proven beyond a reasonable doubt at trial demonstrate that 5 aggravated factors support an upward sentencing departure. Why? Oh, said Keith Ellison. Of course, he's an asshole. And other prosecutors wrote to Hennepin County Judge Peter Cahill. Somebody must have stole his Quran, so he's extra upset today. The aggregating factors, they said, include Floyd being a particularly vulnerable victim. Ugh. We know what that means, don't we? Floyd being treated with particular cruelty. How so? Chauvin abusing his position of authority. Why? By following what he's been trained to do. Fair enough. Chauvin committing the crime as part of a group of 3 or more persons. Well, okay, there were 3 people there holding him down because he was resisting arrest and kicking at officers, but okay. And the fact that multiple children were present when the crime was committed. Oh, won't somebody please think of the children? Trust me, if they were just a few years earlier, Ellison would be arguing that they could be aborted. Any one of these 5 aggregating factors would be sufficient in its own warrant an upward sentencing departure. Here, all 5 apply. Not really. The state therefore respectively requests that the court find the facts necessary to support the existence of these 5 aggregating factors and that the court impose an aggravated sentence on that basis. What does he mean by that? He just wants him to serve more time because he wants to make Derek Chauvin an example. It's not that he wants justice. It's not that he wants accountability like LeBron James does. No, he just wants him to suffer. Taking the lead of former Attorney General for California and current President, Vice President, who knows? String puller, Kamala Harris. For Minnesota law, Chauvin faces sentencing for only the most serious crime, second-degree murder. He faces up to 40 years of prison, a bunch of different factors, depending on what Cahill decides. Whether the judge agrees with the aggravating factors will play a major role in the ultimate sentence. Yeah, exactly. And he was also the judge that decided he was going to throw out the murder 3 charge because it didn't apply, and then he had to reinstate it because the Court of Appeals ruled that, yeah, okay, it did apply. It didn't matter. They could have just fucking threw in a jaywalking ticket because he parked across the street and he came over in order to kneel on Floyd, so he would have got acquitted of that regardless. And how do we know that? Because another one of the actual jurors was there, okay, from a week ago, a couple days ago, whatever, that fat bitch who was in one of my thumbnails there, the white broad with the fucking messy hair. She was an alternate, and we got the only black male who was on the jury, okay? He's come out and he said things like it was getting to be too much. It was like seeing somebody die every single day. And there was only one person holding out thinking that, you know what, maybe manslaughter kind of fits, okay? Everything else, I'm not so much about it. But Chauvin juror says guilty verdicts would have come quicker. They already had their minds made up. There was no need to do any of this deliberation. Fair trial, huh? Very fair. A juror who cast one of the unanimous votes to convict a white. The only time that race is brought up is when the media is reporting on it. Former Minneapolis police officer of killing George Floyd said deliberations were primarily spent trying to convince one person who was uncertain about a part of jury instructions. And see, that's what I told you guys when we were doing the wrap up there not that long ago. A hung jury is very, 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 very uncommon because it takes, if not quite half, if not 5, it'll take 4 very strong-willed people in a jury of 12 people in order to convince anybody else to come along, or for that group to stick together in order to hold out to go forward with a hung jury. But if 2 or 3 people, I suggested at best you might have 3 people who would be considering manslaughter as just a way to appease the crowd stupidly. But it turns out that there was only 1 person there. Brandon Mitchell is the first juror that deliberated in Derek Chauvin's trial to talk publicly about his experience. An alternate juror who was dismissed before deliberations, Lisa Christensen, that's who I was mentioning earlier, spoke to reporters last week saying that she would have voted to convict Chauvin, of course, because she didn't want people coming into her neighborhood. It felt like it should have been 20 minutes. Mitchell, 31, said in deliberations, "A black juror, why didn't you put that there, Fox?" Which led to Chauvin's conviction April 20th on all counts. We already know all of them, don't care. Oh, but a little bit of news there. His sentencing date is pushed back to June 25th. So you're going to get 2 months knocked off of his sentence because for time already served. I've heard conflicting reports that he's in solitary confinement right now. I don't know. Mitchell, who is black, took you long enough, told ABC's Good Morning America. It's so nice that the people who vote the way that the media wants them to can have all of these primetime slots. It's terrific, isn't it? On Wednesday, that much of the time in deliberations was spent going over terminology and make sure we understood what exactly was being asked. Yeah, you think? The identities of the jurors and alternates are protected under a judge's order, but we know pretty much everything except for the name of these people. I think the one juror that was kind of, I wouldn't say slowing us down, but then I'll go on to describe how he was just slowing us down, but was being delicate with the process more so, was just kind of hung up with a few of the words in the instructions. They wanted to make sure they got it right. That's what you should be doing instead of coming in with your preconceived notions or being super excited to be on the jury. Mitchell, who first shared a story with gospel artist Erica Campbell on her podcast, not trying to chase clout, are you? Wrote in his jury questionnaire that he wanted to serve as a juror because of all the protests and everything that happened after the event. This is the most historic case in my lifetime and I would love to be a part of it. Why was he on there? Oh my God. These fucking people. Maybe it's just a 4D chess move to set up the possibility of a mistrial with all of these gleeful jurors out there. I don't know. That'd be the only way to explain why you'd keep having these same people and not petitioning to move out of Hennepin County. Whatever. No use crying over spilt milk. Mitchell speculated that he was picked for the jury because he was mild-mannered. This is the most historic case of my lifetime, and I would love to be a part of it, but he was mild-mannered. Okay, this guy's just stupid then. Well, if you can't get out of jury selection, unless you want to be on the jury, then you are, I'm pretty sure, mandated by the government to wear a helmet at all times. He said the images during the trial trouble him. Like I was saying in the beginning, these are his specific words. It was just dark. It felt like every day was a funeral and watching somebody die every day. Looks like the prosecution's tactics of running that same fucking video clip every single day worked to perfection. Prosecutor said Chauvin pinned Floyd, a black man. What? No. You're kidding me. To the pavement outside Cup Foods, yes, we know, for 9 minutes, 29 seconds. And then once they got up and pronounced them dead, everybody started to riot. And once the guilty verdict was read, everybody clapped, we know. Yeah, I'm not really crying because Chauvin's out there. All I'm saying is the circumstances around this are getting pretty fucking hilarious. They were obvious to begin with, but now that they're coming out, I don't know, is anybody's mind being changed on this one? If you thought this stuff going in, you're still thinking it. And if you're thinking everything was on the up and up and justice was served, you're out there still picketing and making sure that accountability for everybody, which is really just the NPC program update for the fucking month. So I look forward to see what it's going to be in the week here, because it's May 1st today. So we'll see what the fucking new creed has been rolling out. So who knows? It's probably something to do with masks, right? But let's talk about What's going on in public schools, right? Because that's a hot button topic. Covered something about that. The American Families Act or whatever, fucking Biden's indoctrination plan, and what's actually going on in these schools right now. And Republicans trying to push back as meekly as ever. But hey, they're trying, so that's better than what they normally do. And I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.